So, you wanna put emotes in VRChat. Well, first off, you gotta put a character in Blender. Any character, don't matter. Because you gotta put an animation on something. So, you go here. I'm gonna be using the looking good emote for an example. Bro. Now, obviously, you can see, one, it's got audio, and two, it's kind of slow. It's because Fortnite does their stuff at 30. So I'm just gonna go over here. You could disable this in FP, but I didn't because yes. So boom, deleted those audio strips. And then I'm gonna come over to the NLA editor, and you'll see that he does the blend in animation, where he just kind of like he jumps into it. We don't want that. And then you'll see at the end here, it kind of just resets with the blend animation. It's kind of cringe. We don't want that. So I'm just gonna whap. And I'm gonna start editing it by hitting tab. So you can see where it ends, and there's a different animation where it just loops. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the timeline, and we're gonna find what the last pose was. So he's going into the thing, and basically just find when he does that pose. So it's probably around here. It's probably 21. So I'm just gonna delete these first couple of frames. Let's do the like that. So I'm gonna click here. So 21 was the guess, and then 392 is the end of the animation. So we're gonna try with 21 first, and see if there's any seams. I'm just gonna stop it to the end. Looked pretty good. Yeah, so yeah, that's the end of it. So I'm gonna go get rid of the other animation keyframes that I don't need. So 21 is my first one. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the start to 0, move this to 0, so just move all the keyframes with G or whatever and make sure it's on 0. I'm gonna just put the end to the thing because that's what I do every time. Because it's a... I'm blind. Okay. It's going well so far. Well, now that I've done that, you just export an FBX. That's literally it, man. You export FBX. I'm just gonna throw it with now go to Unity. I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call this emotes. And I'm gonna create a separate folder called animation. You'll see why in a second. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that FBX. So I put it in. There's avatar stuff, and then VR. Did I put in the wrong thing? Uh-oh. What was the path for that? Oh, I put under Vice folder. Whoopsie. So you go under, you can grab your FBX that you did. So here it is. I'm gonna drag this into Unity. Now, next thing we gotta do right quick is we have to set up the animation character the way you have your stuff set up. So if you do it the way that like it's recommended, you gotta set up this the same way. So of course, set to humanoid, apply, and then go configure the bones. So 135. None of the head stuff should be plugged in or anything like that. Fix the fingers. This will take me a minute. then fix the right hand. So now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the animation. I'm going to figure out which one it is because there's a couple of them. You'll see this. Whoa, what was that? Head jolt. Let's see if it's this. I mean, like, they're basically the same thing. Oh, and I closed it. We're just going to go with this one. So, what we're going to do is we're going to Control D. Now, let me explain these couple of things. Loop time is if the emote loops. So if it loops, yes. Root transform rotation, we're going to bake into pose and put to original, bake into pose, original, and bake into pose, original for all of these. Mirror is if you want it to be the other way. We're not doing this. So now that you've done that, you have your emote. So for this emote, it's going to be called, what was the emote called? Looking good. So I'm just going to rename this to Looking Good. And throw it in here. Now, the way you put it on your character, which I'm going to use this one as an example, you're going to make 3 things. We're going to use an action layer. We're going to use a menu and a parameter. I'm going to show how to make all of said things. First off, let's create the parameter. No, actually, no, in the menu. So I'm going to call this emote menu. We're going to add a control, new control. I'm going to call this looking good emote. This can be whatever you want. It has to be a toggle. Don't put it as a button. It is the worst. Now, we'll come back to this in a moment. Now, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get out probably one of the VRC defaults. Where is it? Oh yeah, it's going to be under VRChat SDK avatars. Samples? Yeah, here it is. Default expression parameter. And then default expression menu. So we're going to just copy this. Or I'm going to Control D it. So this is the copied one. I'm going to drag it and throw it in that asset thing. So this is going to be our parameter. We're just going to use this as an example. So go to your emote menu. No, first go to your character, my bad. You're going to plug in your menu here. And then you're going to plug in your parameter. You can name these whatever you want. They don't have to be name specific. So I'm going to call this emote nah, you know what? Character parameter. So you can see it's a float, an integer. The integer is a very important thing. So we're going to set this to VRC emote int because that's where our emotes are going to be. And then let's go get a And then we're going to grab this action layer, which is under VRC SDK avatars, samples, AV3 demo assets, animation controllers. We're going to control D this and then drag it with us as well, because we're going to use this as the action layer. The action layer is like the most important part. So now we're going to open this action layer after I first drag it onto the character. So you're going to go to playable layers, action, and I'm going to drag this in. Now what we're going to do is, that is the wrong button. We're going to open it. Now this may look scary, but trust me, this is nothing. Let me just really like get a good view of everything. So you might look at all this and you're like, what is all of this stuff? Don't worry about it. This is the default stuff for VRChat avatars. So if they ever have like a default menu, they use this. It basically means no one set it up. One thing to mention is, you notice how there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 animations. This one actually blends into another one. But there's 8 animations. This right here determines how many you're actually allowed to put in. So if this says like 7, basically these animations won't play. They won't work. So I like to put this to like a high number, just in case I ever add that amount of emotes. So I'm gonna go to stand wave. Notice how it says equals and not. Excuse me? That's not right. They bugged it. What? Okay, well, it's supposed to say VRC emote not equal 1. There's a reason it does that. Because it's an integer. I'm not going to explain integers and all that jazz. We're going to, so if I remember this properly, we're going to set the transition duration to 0. And that's it. And then for this, we're going to turn off exit time and set this to 0. Because you don't want it to be delayed, do you? You want it to be like, press the button, it enables, press the button, it disables automatically, instantly. So now, we're going to replace this animation with the one we have. So now, this is the looking good animation. Boom, done. And I can rename this to looking good emote. Now, if I go back to the scene and I click on our character, I'm going to rename this gesture action layer as well. So I'm going to rename it to emote action layer, if I could spell. Alright, boom. Now I'm going to come over to the character. And so everything's plugged in. One last thing we got to do is we got to go back to the parameter. So that's good. Go to the menu. And we have this set to this. So make sure that the parameter is set to the proper value. So this one's 1 because this is 1. So if I set this to like 9, I would have to go back to the menu and set this to 9. That way it works, basically. So on top of that, I gotta do that for both. So you see how I did it for the blend in? I gotta do that for the blend out as well, or it will break. So basically things need to match up. Well, now I can actually go into play mode after I drag in this gesture manager add-on that you can get from the thing. So now I'm gonna go into play mode so I can demonstrate the animation working. Alright, cool. So you see my guy standing here. I got expressions. I got looking good emote. And as you can see, there we go. You've got your emote. And you just do this for every emote. So if I wanted to add another emote to the menu, I would just go back to the menu, add another thing called like a default dance. I don't have the default dance, so I'm not gonna put it in, but you'd put it to toggle, you'd put it to emote, you'd put it to whatever number you want to put it to. It can be any number as long as it's within this range. So I set it to 22, so that's fine. If it's 25 or higher, not gonna work because it has to be less than this number. So if I set something to 25 when this is 25, not gonna work. And then you would just come here, and if you want to, and if you have all of these replaced and you're like, hey, I need to add another one, how would I do that? You can just Control C, Control V, right click this, make transition, and then make transition. So there's a blend preparing stand and then the blend out state. You'd go over here, turn off has exit time, turn this to 0, set this to VRC equals 22, this, not equal, and then 22. We're gonna get rid of this, we don't need this. Yeah, I'm just making sure, because it's actually been a while. Don't remove it from this. I meant to remove it, but anyway, you get the idea. Basically, you not equals 22, replace animation with emote in here, and then you would just add it to your menu, and then that's it. So just pretend that there's another emote in there, and that's basically it.